Okay,
We're
I'm
going to
done.
make Blue Lagoon Italian Ice. This is a flavor that Christi came up with. And it's going to consist of 1.5 quarts of lemon lime soda. We took the tops off the soda last night so that it loses its fizz. We want the flavor, not the fizz. When Christi first made it at home on her Emery Thompson, she said she just poured the soda in and it was spewing out everywhere because of the foam and the agitation. It's also going to be 1.5 quarts of blue Hawaiian punch, 1 quart of pineapple juice, and 2 pounds of sugar. So we'll hand these out and give this a try.
I need to buy one of them can openers.
Electric?
No, the old-fashioned kind where it pops the hole in it.
Oh.
So I came up with this formula due to a drink that I made for a baby shower. A lot of people ask, how do you come up with your formulas? What do you do? It's just as simple as that. You take your mom's dessert recipe or a family tradition that you make at Thanksgiving. Maybe there is a very good sweet potato casserole someone makes in your family. Yes, you can make a sweet potato ice cream. Would it be good? I don't know. But you can. You can try it. So that's just as simple as all of those things. Now, as Steve said, it was the pouring it into the machine is what I learned made it completely foam out. Doing that with flat soda, it's not as bad, but it still does it just a little bit, but it's a lot more tolerable. So we need to measure out 2 pounds of sugar, right?
Yep.
So that's the rule of thumb with the CB350, is always have at least 4 quarts of liquid and 2 pounds of sugar.
That's going to be your basic formula for anything that's a water ice, Italian ice, sorbet, sorbetto. Is that 2 pounds of sugar, 4 quarts of water ratio. The only time you would deviate from that would be if you're putting something really sugary into it, like when we make the blueberry this afternoon. That's going to increase the sugar content. We might cut back a little bit on the sugar. Otherwise, you need that ratio in order to freeze properly. If you tried to make ice cream with just milk, it would be too much liquid in order to freeze properly. And also you need the sugar in there. Jeff and I got discussing a long time ago about sugar, and he called me a cheapskate for not buying Domino sugar. I was buying the store brand. Well, we did a class one day, and it was Jeff's justification that it turns out the gentleman worked for Domino Sugar, and he said all sugar is not the same. Domino is, it says on it, pure cane sugar, from sugar cane, whereas sugar is beet sugar, and it has a whole different taste profile. It's not as strong. It doesn't freeze the same. So it's worth the extra money in this case to buy the cane sugar. Jeff was talking about, and he's mostly right, when working with the liquor ice creams, you can usually find a good substitute. Grand Marnier liqueur is $50 a bottle, and there are substitutes out there for it. You don't have to use the most expensive Prussian rum to make rum raisin ice cream. But I do wonder, going back to the other flavor, would it have made a difference if it really was Fireball? I like the idea of using Fireball because it's banned in Sweden. They said it's just not fit for human consumption. Well, that makes it, a great little advertising gimmick. But so sometimes you do use brand names, other times you don't. Jeff is fond of saying that, there's no substitute for Oreo cookies. There used to be a cookie called Hydrox, and my wife grew up on Hydrox and swears that they were better than Oreo cookie, but then who went out of business? Oreo's still here. So sometimes brand names, sometimes not, but when you're doing Italian ice, pure cane sugar does make a difference. It's worth the extra cost.
Now, when you do work with Italian ices and you have to do sugar, we like to go ahead and mix it in here with the whatever you're using, whether it's juice in sodas or your water, whichever. Reason is sugar acts like sandpaper. If you were to pour the sugar straight into the machine, it's going to get granules on the sides of the throat and all of that, and it kind of sprinkles outside. but it acts like sandpaper to those blades. It's not going to hurt your machine. You're not going to damage your machine or your blades, but you're just having your blades last longer by going ahead and mixing the sugar with whatever you have. Now, you don't have to mix it continuously until it's 100% dissolved. I was just standing here stirring while Steve was talking. You can, if you choose to. If you see a little bit of dribble of sugar left in your container after you pour it in the machine, that's okay too. There's enough sugar content. So not even stress about it.
Yeah, you're talking about 2 pounds of sugar, so a little stream of sugar is not going to change the formula one way or the other. So you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to boil. Anytime they talk about boiling water and sugar, keep in mind that when you boil water, you're taking all the oxygen out of the water, and oxygen adds to the flavor. I learned that decades ago going down to the Virgin Islands where we'd had to boil the water because it was rainwater. And boiled water is flat tasting. It really kills the taste. So straight out of the tap, and you don't need to boil it just to put sugar in. Yep. Yeah, you got all your sugar?
No. So when you also make Italian ices, you don't have to always use just water. You can use exactly what I did, a juice, and a soda. You can do, or pop, depending on what part of the country you're from. So I have done, a cranberry orange, where it's just orange juice and cranberry juice. And that comes out a very beautiful pink color. It is sweet and tart at the same time, and your sugar that's added to it. You could do just a plain orange Italian ice with simply orange juice, which is a lot of sugar, and then you're adding 2 pounds of sugar. So it's 4 quarts of orange juice, 2 pounds of sugar. Sugar and sugar, that's going to take a long time to freeze. But it's a very beautiful product. It's great. Get the high pulp orange juice because your customers would want to see, the pulp in there and your orange juice or your orange Italian ice, thinking you really did hand squeeze those oranges. Some people have asked, well, what kind of juices can I use and not use? So if you're working with the pineapple juice, definitely you can use this just straight if you wanted to. It's 100% juice. If you try to work with juices that aren't, I have tried that, or like a lemonade, like the brand Simply Lemonade, it is very diluted. So I have tried to make a lemon Italian ice with Simply Lemonade. It was horrible. It was very bland. It was very blah. It wasn't strong enough. So if the juice is a diluted juice, I don't recommend using that. Try to stick with 100% fruit juices if you can. And of course, Hawaiian Punch is a juice, but it's got a lot of additives in it. Other alternatives, you have, let me grab one more. iRice. iRice makes Italian ice bases, and there's some fruits you'll notice that need help. Mangoes. Mangoes are kind of blah on their own, having a mango base, or if you have a mango concentrate, or if you buy a mango juice straight, 100%, that'll be okay. But sometimes they need a little help. Blueberry is an example. They're very bland. We'll be working with blueberries today, so having some blueberry extract and blueberry jam or jelly, that always helps too. Margarita. I'm excited to try this one because I think if I was to use just a plain margarita mix that they have, I think it's too salty. So I think, that's when iRice would come in handy for times like that to make it, and then just throw in some tequila. And you have a margarita Italian ice or boozy ice.
iRice is out of Philadelphia, and they specialized originally in Italian ice flavors. We like to do everything fresh and natural. When I make lemon ice, I'm using fresh squeezed lemon juice, not the Real brand reconstituted juice. It's got a horrible aftertaste. But there are a lot of flavors that don't exist in nature, or another example, the mango. Mangoes, if you buy them in the store, there's 5 different varieties. They seem to only be ripe for one day, and they're very expensive. So the iRice is the best mango I've ever run into. So if I was doing an Italian ice business, I would have a combination of fresh fruit flavors, that I'm buying fresh frozen fruit at the supermarket, like strawberry, opening up the bags after I've thawed them and just pour them in the machine, using the iRice. And when we make the blueberry today, we're actually going to use an extract to help bolster the flavor of the blueberry. So there are times when you just use an extract. And there's nothing wrong with using all those different tools available to you to come out to the best flavor that customers are going to love.
Any questions? Yes.
So Obviously, with the Italian ice, you don't get as much overrun as you do with dairy product. Do you add more into the machine so you can still make a large batch? Or
So he just asked, you don't have overrun when you work with Italian ice because there's no fat content. So very good observation for that. You can add more. When you're working with the smaller machine, it's still good to stay at your 4 quarts of liquid and your 2 pounds of sugar. Your 2 pounds of sugar is obviously going to raise that volume a little bit higher. When you're working with a floor model, you could definitely add a little bit more. So an example, if you were to run homemade ice cream at 100% overrun, the max you can do is 12 quarts. If you were to do an Italian ice, which doesn't have hardly any expansion, the only expansion you do have is your water and your sugar expanding to freeze a little bit. You can add 14 quarts. Same concept goes for gelato or custard because you have a lower overrun. So yes, you can in the larger models, but it's still best to stay around the 4 quarts for the CB350 because there's not a whole lot of extra room in there and you want it to be able to freeze well. Any other questions? Yes.
I spoke to the folks at Higher Ice after watching some of your videos, and they had talked about stabilizers in Italian ice. He didn't have much to add on it. I just was curious about what your guys' kind of stance is on stabilizers.
So his question was what our thoughts are on stabilizers. I am against it. If you ask my daughter, who is a teenager, who's 15 and a half, she will be able to tell you right away what product has stabilizer in it. It does have a difference. It has a texture difference. A stabilizer is exactly how it says. It stabilizes your product. If you are going to an event or doing something like a wholesale, you have to have your stabilizers because you need it to last longer than 4 or 5 days. If you are just doing something that you know is a quick turnaround in a push cart or in your store or a location, try to stay away from it if you can. It doesn't melt. It's weird. When you scoop it and you put it in a cup and you drive home, it's still going to be in the same shape it was that they scooped it. If you have it fresh, it's going to melt a lot faster. So always try not to if you don't have to. Any other questions? No? So, yes.
When you talk about overrunning, can you explain what that actually means? I'm not really sure what's overrun.
So overrun is your air content. The faster your dasher goes, the more air it's going to put into your product. The slower your dasher goes, the less air it's putting into your product. When you work with Italian ice, there is no expansion really because there's no fat. If you were to take sugar, water, and some strawberries in a bowl with a whisk, you whisk it, nothing's going to happen, right? There's no fat content. You do the same thing with heavy whipping cream, it's going to start expanding because there's a fat. Dairy is fat. So that's what overrun is. The less overrun, the more thicker and heavier and more dense your ice cream is going to have that texture and feel, kind of like a gelato. The more overrun you have, the more air content, the more fluffier your ice cream is going to be.
It's easy to remember the word overrun and what it means. Consider it proof in alcohol. If you've got 100 proof rum, it means it's 50% alcohol and 50% other stuff, inert stuff. So we call it 100 proof, but it's the alcohol content's 50%. So on ice cream, let's use the word proof. We have 100 proof ice cream. That means it's 50% dairy and 50% air. Same idea, except we get rid of the word proof and put in overrun, and it's still 50% dairy and 50% air. And air is critical to a product because without it, a good example is the birthday cake that we're not going to make. That would be 100 proof or 100% overrun. It's going to be half baked goods and half air. Everybody knows what a birthday cake tastes like. It's delicious. And everybody knows what a pound cake tastes like. A pound cake is going to be a very low proof or low overrun, maybe 25%. Very, very dense. And you can ask yourself, which one would you rather have a second piece of? A birthday cake or a pound cake? Most people will say the birthday cake because it's light, it's airy, it's delicious, and it leaves you feeling refreshed. So that's the only difference, and that's what air is doing. We don't worry about the cost in our business because we know whatever we sell is going to be very profitable. But we do have to worry about Haagen-Dazs. When we put them into business, they opened up a series of stores around the country. They're all closed, as far as I know. A few of the Ben & Jerry's are still left open for promotional purposes, but they're both low air content ice creams. So as I was mentioning this morning before we got going, a 4-ounce scoop of Haagen-Dazs is very little. It's like nuclear waste. It's very dense. A 4-ounce scoop of homemade ice cream is falling off the cone. So from a visual standpoint and $5 cost, which would you rather have? The one that's falling off the cone or the one that's very dense? More importantly, Haagen-Dazs realized that out in front of their store they had a trash can so that people, after they finished their cone, could throw away the napkin, not be all over the streets. Well, they were finding half-eaten ice cream cones because the product is so dense that it just left you feeling full. If you buy Haagen-Dazs ice cream, I guarantee if you're a male, well, first off, if you're a male, you, on your way home, you bite into the container. Women don't know this. You bite into the container with your teeth because you don't have a spoon and you're driving home. And then when we get home, we smooth it over with our finger so you can't see that we ate it. And then we realize there's an indent in it, so we get really smart and we grab a spoon and we stick it in it and start eating it right away, right in front of our wife. And our wife says, "Leave that alone. That's for the Thompsons coming for dinner tonight." And we just got away with eating it with our teeth on the way home. But the point is, with Haagen-Dazs, you're going to eat a little bit, maybe when you first get home, a bite. You're going to have a little bit for dinner, maybe a little like me at 10:30 at night. You pick at that pint of Haagen-Dazs. But if you bring home a half gallon of Bluebell, you're probably going to be pulling out larger portions and larger scoops. So the very dense ice cream has its place in business. It doesn't work well in retail. It works beautifully in pint sales. So if I'm doing pints out of these machines, I'm going to go for a low air content, low overrun. But again, like I said this morning, what people really eat is not fat content or overrun, it's flavor. You have a great flavor and it's going to sell big.
I think we are pretty darn close. Wait, I'll let you guys tell me.
And that's been 11 and a half minutes.
Don't mind that. That's from prior. What do you guys think? Yes? No? We ready?
Hold on.
A little bit?
Let me give you a fresh one so you don't have the liquid in the bottom.
I have it here. You want to use that one? Oh, can everybody see? No? Yes? What do you think? Ready? Yeah? Okay.
Now you saw Christy turned off the refrigeration. If she'd left it on, towards the end, it would start banging and knocking because it's freezing to the walls. Wow, that's beautiful.
It's very pretty. So if you noticed, it went in green, or like a teal color, and it came out nice and pretty blue. Hence Blue Lagoon. Or you can call it tidal wave, change it to whatever you want. No dairy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I can see this being a very good cream ice. As Jeff always teaches, 3, 2, 1.
A cream ice is nothing more than taking an Italian ice formula and adding a bit of the ice cream mix to it. Or if you were doing it from scratch, either half and half or heavy cream, but smaller amounts of it. And that will make it a cream ice. The old-fashioned term for cream ice is sherbet. But sherbet was always sticky and gummy because they threw in stabilizers. And sherbet seemed to only come in about 3 flavors. Cream ice, you can do as many flavors as you can invent. So both are good products.
And always have fun with the names. Like I just, if you're at an event, like let's say a splash park, or you're at an event that has like a water rides or something, you can call this, Wipeout. So anything to attract the kids and cater to kids, because that's where your money's at for events.
What's that, Steve?
Hold on, I want to get it on your hand.
Thank you. Christy is serving it the way they would serve it on the West Coast, in a cup with a spoon. This is a squeeze cup. Now, anything west of the Hudson River, you ask a paper supplier for squeeze cup, they're going to look at you a deer in the headlights. To them, it's called a pleated water cup, pleated like a lady's dress. And the way we eat this, no spoon, very low cost, we just squeeze it up and eat it that way. Oh, that is delicious, Christy.
Thank you.
These are only made by one company, Solo. That's where Christy started working. She was running production lines of the Solo red cups.
I feel
Solo
you
makes these. It's they come in different sizes. This is actually 3.5 ounces, a 3.5 ounce cup, but once you crown it over, it's 4 ounces. So thanks to McDonald's, it's a 1/4 pound of ice, Italian ice. How great is that? But that's a lot of fun to eat it that way. And, you know, great for the environment, no spoons, no plastic cups, it's all just paper. Pleated water cup.
You guys will have to let me know how you like this one.
That's so good, we better keep that for ourselves. Now, you know, we call it Italian ice. Down in Philadelphia, they give it a horrible name. Water ice. You know, water ice. It's the same stuff. Up in Rhode Island, it's called slush, you know, like a 7-Eleven. And there is a difference in all these products, and you won't hear this anywhere else. I mean, the most secretive business in the world is Italian ice. Using the bigger machine, the formula would be for a lemon ice would be 7 pounds of sugar, 14 quarts of water, and 2 quarts of fresh squeezed lemon juice. That's a New York ice. You go down to Philadelphia, and that 7 pounds of sugar, they like it smoother and creamier than a New York ice. So it becomes 8 pounds of sugar. That's the only difference between a water ice and an Italian ice, and nobody else will tell you that.
And what's a granita?
A granita is a coarse ice. They sell that up in Rhode Island, and they sell that in areas of Brooklyn where they only speak Italian. And a granita or granite is the same formula, but 6 pounds of sugar. Very, very coarse. It tends to lose its flavor, in my opinion, but it sells a lot of machines, so I have to promote it too. But it's all the same formula. We're just adjusting the sugar. The higher the sugar content, the smoother the ice. That's simple. No stabilizers in here. No chemicals whatsoever.
Good throat freeze.
So what do you guys think? Good, good. And you can taste that Sprite in there. Now, when I did a test run with root beer Italian ice, the customer wanted to know, has anybody done that before? Just use straight root beer, no water, no nothing, root beer and sugar. That's how I learned about the carbonation and the whole volcano thing. When I did it with flat soda, carbonated soda, and then everybody knows the Soda Stream concentrate to make your own soda. That's what I used, but I'm sure you can, you know, from Green Mountain or from Weber Flavors, buy a root beer concentrate, but that's what I had. Everybody preferred the flat soda. When they tried it with the carbonated one, when they took a bite, they kind of went, you know, they were like, wow, they could feel that carbonation there. So everybody did vote for the flat root beer one, which worked very well. It was just straight root beer and sugar, no water.